When I take a hard look at this week's episode of World's Finest Assassin, and I take a look at the magic system, it is very in-depth, immersive, and unique. It is something that can really be dived into, something that can lead to a lot of fury and a lot of discussion because of just spell weaving and spell crafting that is in this universe. And I want to kind of take a few moments to talk about it because it really kind of just started to make my mind blow away when I was thinking about the act of creating spells within this world. So one of the first things that I really love is that it reminds me of the classic era of video games. I cannot be the only one that, let's say, has played Morrowind, and anyone that remembers spellcrafting / spell weaving from Morrowind or any other classic or game and all that RPG game, you have it to where you're able to create your own spells. And when I saw Lug, our main male character, creating his own magic, it reminded me of that. It reminded me of that era of video games where you could literally create your custom spells to do what you want, which could just completely break the game or do something really unique that the developers never intended. And that's what I'm reminded. I'm reminded of that age of RPGs, and that made me very happy. But obviously there's a lot more going on than just nostalgia and just that feeling of, a classic RPG. The point is spell weaving that we got from this episode lets us know that not everybody is capable of it, which is a given because that's what our MC selected as a perk, spell weaving. But even if you're given that perk of spell weaving, you can probably go your entire life and not even know that you actually have that perk, which is what I really want to dive into, and how difficult it really is to create your own magic spell, and how this world is really set against spell weaving and spell crafting. So, to get right into it, basically, we see that our MC, he knew that he was capable of spell weaving, magic, etc. because, he has his memories from the previous life and he got to select what he wanted. However, let's just forget all of that for a moment and let's just factor in like a common Joe, like a regular guy that has no idea what capabilities or what he's really capable of, the talent, etc. You have a regular farmer, okay? You have a regular farmer boy that, is just working the farm, but his perks, or one of his talents, is actually spell weaving. However, he doesn't have a rich family. He doesn't have a rich life or anything like that. He's living day by day, working the farm, etc. Just a regular farmer. And so he potentially could go his entire life and not even know that he has spell weaving, which means that he will never be able to utilize the main skill that could actually benefit him and even actually cause him to get rich and help his family, etc. I feel like that's kind of how this world is working. From what the goddess has told us is that, you have random perks / skills thrown to you at random, so it's not really given what you're going to get. For instance, you can have stuff that just do not mesh well together at all. You can have, let's say, let's say talents or perks or whatever that are for a warrior, and then you have a random thing thrown in that says, oh, you're really good at, I guess studying for magic stuff. Something like that, just something very random and off the wall. That's what I'm trying to get at, is that this world, it doesn't really help mages. It doesn't help spell weaving, and I wonder if that really is purposeful, and it's put there by design for the people that, look at magic and worship magic, etc., think that gods are the ones that are actually blessing them with these abilities instead of their own hard work and effort. That's what I was led to believe while watching this episode. Because when you really think about it, it makes a lot of sense why maybe spell weaving and spell crafting is so weird, because it's just the qualifications, the prerequisites to actually even get to that point. So once again, besides just the obvious random throwing of, let's say, someone getting spell weaving, it also comes down to their origin. For instance, when they were born. Example, like I said, if you're like a farmer that has no family, like let's say prestige or whatever, you don't have a lot of money, you'll probably go your entire life and not even know you have that ability or even get to use it. On top of that, even if you have that ability, and you have that ability, there is a likely chance that you might not ever be able to obtain anything else with that ability because you don't actually have the prerequisites of mana or knowledge to be able to actually even achieve that. Be able to achieve to write your own spells, because you have to have a good origin, you have to have money, you have to have the ability to understand what you're even doing, so brain, and on top of that, you have to have the capacity to actually do magic to begin with. So there is just so many limitations and prerequisites to even be able to create your own spells. So the common Joe, for instance, being able to do what Luke did in this episode is so rare that it is absolutely insane, which kind of explains why there isn't so much knowledge of custom spells and spell weaving, because you'd think it would be revolutionary. Like, imagine this. Like, someone that actually can spell weave, they could literally write an entire book of custom spells if they spend their entire life researching it, and when they write this entire book, people can actually use these spells to be able to do great things. And you can you can get really rich from that. You can make so much money probably if you were to write and make your own spells to give to others, which obviously that has not happened, for probably a variety of reasons. One reason is if there is a spell weaver that's able to create their own spells, probably they keep it to themselves. It's probably for the very powerful and the very secretive, they keep for themselves. And, you know, it's also a possibility that, you know, not a lot of people even know about it because, you know, it's just so hard to obtain to begin with. So I do like the magic system. It really separates our MC from normal individuals because of his knowledge and also because of what he knows now with spell weaving. I like it. Like I said, I love the magic system. It's very fascinating, very thought-provoking, and I cannot wait to see the overall limitations and the uniqueness of what he's capable of in the future, because from what we saw from this episode, he's already able to create modern technology. For instance, like a gun or a mortar shell, which is just ridiculous to think about. And like I said, it really probably the limitations of spell weaving just comes to the mind itself, you know, just the amount of research and knowledge you're willing to put into it. That's the only limitation, and that's what's cool about this. And I like how the MC is using his knowledge from the previous world that he was in to be able to apply it with magic to create these super unique things. Not a lot of isekai series do that. And I mentioned this already before in my previous episode review, and I mentioned it offhand here and there throughout different series I've reviewed over the years. But you don't normally see a character, you know, apply their knowledge from the previous world into the current world they're in and use it to benefit themselves. And I love what this series is doing. It's where our character is perfectly able to apply all the knowledge he has into this world, and it doesn't feel like it's breaking anything. It feels like he has really learned from his previous life, and he's using the knowledge to better himself already. It's just stuff like that that really adds an extra layer to a series I'm able to appreciate and enjoy as a watcher, and I cannot wait. I love theory crafting about this stuff, and there are so many things I could think of now because of what this story has done with just this episode alone. But enough with the magic system. Let's talk about a few other things that this episode did. So one big thing that this episode tried to hint at is that our main character is somehow related with Daya. I think that's the name of his teacher. Now, if that is not the case, then most likely they have some form of arranged marriage being set up. Because there was a lot of moments throughout the episode that implied that maybe there is some form of arranged marriage going on with the characters because of them being in the same bed, but also just the scene where, you know, their heads are put together. Just everything about the scene seems like Daya is aware of maybe a potential arranged marriage, and, you know, obviously Luke has no idea, because we gotta think about this type of time period. This time period, arranged marriages were a given. It was a constant thing. And so, thinking about just the relationship between the two families with, you know, Daya's family and also Luke's family, it makes sense that most likely there is an arranged marriage between the two. And if I am correct, I believe the first episode did showcase, you know, Daya as a character that was with our MC. So, they are definitely going to be partners in the future, which implies that they're probably going to be married together. So, I am interested in that. That was left very vague with this episode, but I believe it's one or the other. Either they're related somehow, or there is going to be some form of marriage in the future between them. We'll see where that's going to go. But besides that, we also got the stuff with the whole assassination. The first kill that our MC has had to do since he's been reborn into this world. And as we know, he is one of the best assassins in the previous world that he came from. And so being able to get rid of someone isn't necessarily hard for him. But his father in this world taught him a very valuable lesson, which I think is really, really interesting. He's like, look, we're assassins, and yes, what we do kill people, but at the same time, you need to be an assassin and be a human. Don't be a tool. And I think that's a really good outlook, because it kind of goes against everything that our MC has learned in the previous world, is because every time he assassinates someone, he's like, oh, I'm just a tool. That's all he felt like he was. But his father is teaching him, like, hey, you may be an assassin, but you should also know what you're doing and realize that you're still a human. You're not some machine, a cold-blooded monster. You should be able to figure out if it's okay to do this job or why you're doing this job. You need to think about that. And I think that's a really good good aspect to show the growth of our character, putting a lot more emotion and having feeling and trust, etc. into things. So he makes his own decision if it's a-okay to be able to get rid of this person or not. And I feel like this is definitely going to come into play in the future when he has to get rid of the hero of the story. I still believe that there's something that we're not really aware of when it comes to the hero. Has probably something to do with the goddess, but I think that that is a really unique piece of dialogue from this episode, though, is that he needs to look at it as a human instead of as a tool, and him being able to get rid of that heartless woman like that was just insane, because honestly, the woman fooled me. I'm not gonna lie, I thought the woman was gonna be innocent or something, but no, she actually was a despicable individual that did deserve, you know, the sentence that she got, but it was just like, man, that kind of shocked me with how it did that, and I'm glad to see that, you know, the cold-blooded nature of our MC is still there, and that it's going to take a lot of time for him to probably realize to be human when he's doing these type of acts. But I guess I'm going to leave it at that. It's a good episode of World's Finest Assassin. I love this episode from start to finish. A lot of theories, a lot of thought-provoking discussion I can have, and I cannot wait to talk about it more next week. But let me know your thoughts in the comments below. If you enjoy my content, you know, please subscribe. And if you like this video, please leave a like. With that, guys, be safe, stay healthy. Chibi out.